LinkedIn kicked me out of their website. They logged me out as I was using it, and then when I tried to log back in, gave me an interstitial page where I first had to solve a puzzle challenge to prove it was me, and then was presented with a request for photocopies of my passport and ID. They say this is for security purposes. I'm a little doubtful. I had been using LinkedIn for promoting myself as a front-end engineer, JavaScript developer, very skilled and experienced with over 23 years of experience. I would solve coding challenges on LeetCode, do a write-up of the challenge on LeetCode, publish it there, make a YouTube video explaining my code, explaining the problem, how to think through it, the strategy, and the code solution, go through it step by step, stepping through the loops, and then I would post those things on LinkedIn. Also, I would post on LinkedIn in the JavaScript developer group. I would post challenge questions and answer questions about code and do code reviews. Also, I followed some technology companies. The technology companies would use LinkedIn to promote socio-political agendas. And herein is where I think the problem arises. So when I'm following a technology company and I see something that is promoting a socio-political agenda, right away I might think I don't agree with that. But then maybe second, I'll think I probably shouldn't post any comment that is negatory because it might impact my job hunting purpose, which is why I'm going to LinkedIn in the first place. So I might be negating my efforts by commenting on this. And so for the most part, I would stay away from them. And I didn't like that. I didn't like the fact that these companies were putting out content of questionable appropriateness, socio-political agendas, and expecting that nobody would post a negatory comment. And you see the only comments on there are clapping their hands, thank you very much, you're great, Microsoft and Google and all of you. And they would also have their expert, their DIE expert, diversity, inclusion, and equity, posting up there and why this is necessary and officiating the justification for why whatever their socio-political agenda was posted for, why it was necessary. But I did on one occasion, more than one occasion, post some comments on there. And every time that I had done so, action had been taken. Like the comment would be deleted, shadow banned, or I would be logged out and requested to do a two-factor authentication or a puzzle challenge or click a link in my email, something of that nature, to prove that it was me. Now, in this most recent action, I had also posted on pay transparency, the agenda that was promoted by Google. Pay transparency is the idea that we all must know what everybody else is getting paid. Otherwise, it could be unfair. Somebody might be getting paid more than somebody else, and the way to end the gender pay gap is with pay transparency. And I disagree that that is the case. I disagree with the premise of the gender pay gap being due to misogyny or sexism. And I disagree to having my pay disclosed to everyone else, because I fundamentally believe that my pay is to be negotiated with my employer, and it is to be a private matter. It's not something I want to share with anyone. I don't want to share that information. How much I make is private. You can think of some situations where one might not want to share their pay. For example, one is making a very low amount of pay and they want to promote themselves as being highly skilled. Well, if their pay is low, and then, well, obviously they're not very skilled or they'd be getting more. And so then their next job would see that they are a low-paid individual and probably offer them 10% more. So instead of going from 40K to 140K, they're going from 40K to 50K. It kind of keeps people in a position in life, socioeconomic status. I don't like that. I think it should be a private matter. Another case, somebody might be making a lot of money and they don't want to disclose that because, well, then they're going to attract people who want their money. That's another case. There are potentially other cases that I didn't think of. As for my own case, I just want it to be private. I believe fundamentally that it's a private issue, and I don't want that shown. It's just I feel like, well, I have to protect that and hide it. I don't want other people to know what it is. So I did speak up. I don't agree with this. I fundamentally don't agree that I should be forced to relinquish my pay information to the rest of the world. And I don't agree that this gender pay gap is correct. And I have reasons to support that. And we will look at the case of women who never married. And they make more on average than men. Why is that? Well, does that somewhat maybe contradict this gender pay gap hypothesis for, sexism being the hypothesis explaining why women get paid less? Maybe there are multiple factors for this. I've watched a number of videos from Jordan Peterson and looked up the evidence that he has presented regarding gender pay gap and regarding personality differences. Things that have been posted by James Damore, including the scientific references that he posted. And there do seem to be multiple reasons why, in some cases, women make less than men. And on average, that could be the case for any particular job. And personality differences might also go to explain why some women choose not to go into STEM fields. Their personality type, on average, women have slightly different personality type than men, on average. And personality does affect the type of career one is going to go into. So these things can help explain some differences in men and women. But that is something that is counter-narrative. It's going against the stream of whatever is coming down the dominant narrative. And you can feel the dominant narrative, especially anytime you go against it. If the dominant narrative is masks, vaccines, or, BLM, it doesn't matter what it is. The flavor of the month is always changing. But if you're going against those things, you're going to feel a lot of pressure. You're going to be locked out. Your posts will be deleted. You'll be canceled. You'll be banned from the website. And generally, I don't think those things are really something that I want to get into on LinkedIn. I want to focus on, here's what I can do. I'm good. I can bring value to your company. Let's get something done. Let's work. I don't feel the socio-political stuff is appropriate for LinkedIn. However, when it's being presented by these companies, the companies know that the majority of people aren't going to post any negatory comment. So they are in fact using the submissive nature of job seekers and career professionals to make it seem like the vast majority of people agree with them. And when you get 30 or 40 comments, yay, congratulations on promoting this agenda. Thank you so much for your work and your justice. Then it seems like everybody agrees with them. All 30 or 40 people out of the thousands or tens of thousands of people who actually saw that post and didn't say anything because they were afraid. When we live in a society where everyone is afraid, it gives too much power to the people who are imbuing that fear. And this is the technology companies who are putting this out there and saying, see, you're scared to say anything because it will impact your career. If we see you posting negatory comments, we might not hire you. If Apple sees that you're posting negatory comments on an initiative that Apple supports that Google posted, they see the Google post and you commented, and Apple supports that too, then you might not get a job at Apple. It might impact your career. Don't comment on those things. That's why they put those things out there. There's a threat behind the posts that these tech companies are making. And when we live in a society that has the populace afraid to speak out, tends towards totalitarianism. In this case, it would be more power to the technology companies and the agendas that they're pushing. Now, in the case of the agenda of pay transparency, I have some suspicion that this may be to get the people at the bottom to fight over who has a bigger breadcrumb. I see this initiative in New York. I see it in California. It's the same thing, the same template. Where's the original prototype for this law? It's the United Nations. Again, okay. What a surprise. So they're promoting pay transparency. So the billionaires at the top who are running everything, who own large portions of the world, really care about the slave labor in Africa that are mining your rare earth minerals and destroying the environment in the process so you can have electric cars? Do they really care about the deplorable conditions in China and sometimes slave labor for the manufacturer of your goods over there? Is there a discrepancy in pay between what an American would get and what someone in China would get? Well, of course, there's a huge discrepancy. And do they care? Well, their actions speak. They're not doing things about this. The Apples and the Microsofts, they're not taking action to rectify global injustice. Where they're really trying to take action to keep people in the United States fighting amongst who gets the bigger breadcrumb and trying to blame the patriarchy or whatever, the boogeyman, trying to get us to fight amongst each other. Well, they pay zero taxes and don't care about any of this stuff. It's a game. They're winning. And so that's fundamentally what I think. I believe that this is not something that's substantial enough to get behind this pay transparency. I don't think it's something we need to support. And I also believe it's a violation of my rights. So I see some hypocrisy in the whole thing. I see some problems that it causes with me personally. And I think when you have something to say, the noble thing to do is to speak the truth. And that's why I have been locked out of LinkedIn. Now you might ask, well, couldn't you just upload your ID? Well, why do I have to dox myself and my address and my driver's license number and my passport number? You don't need a passport to use websites. That shouldn't be necessary. I mean, what is the purpose of a passport? And what are they going to do next? They're going to use that passport on other websites, and then your passport is required so that you can't use websites unless you have we need a website password to use websites? I mean, where are we going with this? Nobody hacked my account. LinkedIn is doing this to take action against me. They never warned me about this. They never sent any email. And if they were confronted on this, which won't happen because they're very well protected, you can't call them, you can't ask them. But if they were confronted on this, they would probably chalk it up to, oh, something went wrong. It must have been a technical error. Oops, we're sorry. But you can't even get that far. You can't even get, oops, we're sorry. You can't even get acknowledgement that you did something wrong. They won't say it. They want to keep you scared because LinkedIn is among all these other technology companies, and they all stick up for the dominant narrative. And you can feel it. You can feel the dominant narrative when you go against it. People say, well, because you're right wing. Well, maybe not. Maybe you don't have to be right wing. You just have to be not agreeing with the dominant narrative. You can be politically homeless. You can look at ideas one by one and make up your mind and think about it, but they don't want you to think about it or criticize it. You have to just zip it and pretend like you go along with it. That's a very dangerous prospect for the future of society. But I think it's a powerful one for the large corporations that want to have compliant employees to go along with what they're doing. Just shut up, don't say anything, keep your head down, do as you're told. They want compliance, uniformity, and conformity. They want to continue to pay you lower wages, worsening conditions, and they're going to continue to do that. I mean, I can look at the pay for front-end engineer 15 years ago, around 150,000. It's about the same today. But due to the value of the dollar, the purchasing power is much less with that salary. And so we're not really getting anywhere on the bottom, where the people on the top are getting much, much richer. All the wealth is agglomerating at the top. You think you're at the bottom, everybody's about the same and everything's the same and it's consistent and it's fine. But the amount of wealth that's being created in the world is all going up. And I don't like that. I don't think it's fair, and I think that the public is being largely deceived in my appraisal of what I see. I think people aren't really as aware, and perhaps I'm not even fully aware of it myself. I think I see something, and I think I see maybe the tip of the iceberg, and things are actually a lot worse than they actually are, because what we're getting at the bottom is breadcrumbs, and what the people at the top get is billions of dollars that they don't pay taxes on, and they get to call the shots and keep the people at the bottom as almost subservient workers, obedient, compliant, uniform workers to do as they wish, to mold and shape society as they think is suitable for them. And so I'll say once again, the best thing to do in the face of this is to speak the truth when you have something to say.